Hello Nidorinas and Nidorinos, I'm KingNido, and today it is the Holon Allies going up against the Cinnabar Blazes in our last contest of this regulation season that will have ramifications on Victory Road Season A2. So let's have a look at this tale of the tape, where for the Holon Allies, they have been out of contention for quite some time, but for them it is about getting their only win of the season, whereas for the Cinnabar Blazes, they need this victory to guarantee that they will have a second chance if they lose a game in Victory Road. But with all that said, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to win this matchup. Will it be the rainbow decks? Will it be the fire decks? Let's go!
3, 2, 1, go!
And going first, having flipped heads, it is the Spring Path deck of the Holon Allies. They move their Eevee into the active spot. It's the Houndour in the active spot with the Paldean Taurus on the bench for the Flameathon deck for the Cinnabar Blazes. But as we said, for the Allies, they have not won a series all season. They have won individual games, but they have not won 2 out of 3 matches in a single set this season. As they play their Professor's Research, they are going to get the Abra and the Pokeball, so they can get another basic Pokemon out of their deck. Now this deck does generate Grass and Psychic Energy, and they do pull the Giratina, who does require 1 of each, and they immediately move them onto the bench. They also require a 3rd energy of any type. They also move the Abra onto the bench as they've got their 2 Alakazam in hand. The Blazers pull their own Professor's Research so they can get 2 cards out of their deck as well, and they are going to produce the Houndoom plus a second Houndour if they so choose. And the great thing with the Houndour for this Flameathon deck is it only requires 1 energy to go on the offensive, so immediately with this Flare they can get 20 damage onto this Eevee, who only has 40 health remaining. But there is that Pokemon Center Lady in hand for the Allies as they pull their Leafeon as well, and they are going to be generating a Grass type energy. They've also got the X-Speed in hand, and on their next turn they will be generating a Psychic type energy. Now Leafeon only requires 1 Grass energy plus a 2nd energy for that Leafy Cyclone that does 90 damage as well. It's good of them to evolve it, but with that said, the Leafeon will not be able to outlast a hit from the Houndoom, and they are going to play the Pokemon Center Lady to get it back to full strength, or they think about it but opt against it after moving a Grass energy onto the Giratina. The Allies, they don't want to make any mistakes. They do not want to go an entire season winless, so they do end up playing that Pokemon Center Lady. Again, they've still got that X-Speed in hand. And it is the Blazers pulling their Ponyta as they are going to evolve that Houndour into the Houndoom. They do get the 2nd required energy and can go for this corner. It will do 80 damage thanks to the weakness of the Leafeon, and it will also prevent Leafeon from being able to retreat, so that X-Speed in hand will be useless as Leafeon only has 10 health remaining, so it is only a matter of this turn before it is wiped off into the discard pile. The Psychic Energy being produced goes straight onto the Giratina. There will be another Psychic Energy produced on the next turn, but the Allies quickly send it back to the Blazers, who once again pull their Professor's Research, and they've got 2 potions plus the Iono in hand, and they get the Rapidash plus their 2nd Ponyta. And that Rapidash does require 2 energy for the Rising Lunge, but it has the capacity to do 100 damage as this corner is going to wipe Leafeon off the board. And this is a fantastic start for the Cinnabar Blazers, getting the first point here in game 1 of our best of 3 series. And regardless of the outcome of the first 2 matches, we still play that 3rd game because it still counts toward the leaderboard heading into Victory Road to help with those placings for the top 5 teams. The Kadabra pulled for the Holon Allies, immediately brought online, and here it is, the Crisis Dive. Unfortunately though, the Giratina does have to discard 2 random energy. They take the Houndoom off the board, they lose one of the Grass energy, they lose the only Grass energy, but they also lose one of those Psychic energies. As the Blazers thinking about how they want to approach this next turn, they do move the Rapidash into the active spot. And speaking of Rapidash, the Blazers pull their 2nd Rapidash, so they move the Ponyta onto that final bench spot, and with the Rising Lunge it does 40 damage. If they flip a heads, it will do 100 damage, and there it is, they do flip the heads, 100 damage onto the Giratina, who will undoubtedly be taken off the board in the next turn. But the Allies do pull their 2nd Kadabra, and they are producing the Grass type's energy now. But it's not good for them here because they still need to get 2 energy onto the Giratina if they want to go on the offensive, but it requires 3 energy to retreat, so the X-Speed is no good. They can't get any energy onto the Alakazam that is beneficial because it requires 2 Psychic type energy, but they still move a Grass energy onto the Alakazam. As the Blazers do pull the X-Speed, they do get their 2nd Rapidash online, who does only require a single energy that is placed onto it. And here for another Rising Lunge, it's guaranteed to take the Giratina Giratina off the board, and they will only get the 40 damage as they tried to maximize it with that coin flip. And this is fantastic for the Blazers. They're looking to take game 1. They want to head into game 2 with full control. The Allies moving the Alakazam into the active spot. They do pull a Giant Cape. They have no other basic Pokemon in hand, and we can see on their next turn it will be a Psychic Energy, but it may just be one turn too late. They get a second Grass Energy onto the Alakazam, but they are going to send it back over to the Cinnabar Blazes. They pull their Pokemon Center Lady, which they don't need to use at the moment because all of their Pokemon are still at full strength, but the Rising Lunge, once again the capacity for 100 damage, and they get it. They flip their heads. The Alakazam left with only 50 health remaining. This is terrible for the Holon Allies as they do pull the Rocky Helmet. Now they can't put a second Pokemon tool onto a Pokemon, but they are now producing the Psychic type energies, and this has been one of their biggest problems all season long. They can't guarantee the energy they will produce. The Blazers pulling a Pokeball, and they are going to play that immediately. They don't have enough guaranteed strength to take out the Alakazam. If they get a heads on the coin flip with the Rapidash though, again 100 damage, they will get their 3rd point, and that is exactly what happens as this Flamethorn deck runs straight through the spring path to get game 1 for the Cinnabar Blazes. And as we have a quick table reset, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, make sure to subscribe so you never miss any of the action of the PokeType League TCG. But here it is, game 2, and the Cinnabar Blazers have flipped heads, so they will be going first, and they're using their Flint Lockwood deck. We can see that Sizzlipede, they move into the active spot. They've got the Center Scorch in hand. The Holon Allies using their Champions Path deck. They move the Shaman into the active spot, the Gibble on the bench. They've got the Garchomp, but not the Gabite in hand. And both teams have got a Professor's Research already in hand, so they can quickly start thinning their deck. The Blazers, they are going to pull a Rocky Helmet as well if they want to try and discourage the Allies from going on the offensive. And they get the Slugma and the second Center Scorch as well with their Professor's Research, and they've already got the Makago in hand. This is another good start for the Cinnabar Blazers, but without much else they can do, they send it over to the Allies who get their own Rocky Helmet before playing their Professor's Research. And this deck does generate the Water and Fighting type energy as they get their second Shaman. They get the Cynthia. Now the question is, do they want to set up the Shaman or just worry about getting that Garchomp online when they can't guarantee a Gabite will be pulled? They do get a Water Energy onto the Gibble. They get the Rocky Helmet onto the Shaman, so they want to get that 20 recoil damage onto the Center Scorch. The Sizzlipede if it goes on the offensive. The Blazers, they do pull their X speed, and they do get the Makago online, getting an energy onto the Makago. It does require 2. It can also burn, well, it will also burn the opposing Pokemon that does 20 damage in between turns. And the Blazers immediately go with the X speed as well. They're not waiting around. They're going to retreat the Sizzlipede straight away, moving the Makago into the active spot. And this is the question of whether or not they want to get the Center Scorch online, but they choose not to just yet as it comes back over to the Holon Allies, and they get the Gabite. This is crucial. They've got it early. They've got the energy they need for the Garchomp because it only requires 1 water or 1 fighting, and they've got the Irida in hand who does restore 40 health from any Pokemon on the side of the Allies, holding a Water Energy that's taken damage. Now without much else they can do, they have placed their second Shaman on the bench, and they don't want to rush this. They want to take this to a game 3. They don't want to go winless all season. The Cinnabar Blazers do pull the Pokeball so they can get another basic Pokemon out of their deck, so they are going to play that immediately, and they get the Heat Rotom this time. Also requires 2 energy, but has the potential to do 60 damage with a coin flip. They get the Rocky Helmet onto the Makago as well. It has 120 health, but again, this Searing Flame, 30 damage. It will leave the Shaman burnt, so it will do an additional 20. But there is that Rocky Helmet that does 20 damage back to the Makago, bringing it down to 100 health, and there's the burn starting to take effect. The Allies flip a coin, and they flip the tails for the burn checkup as well. So Shaman is still left with the burn, but here it is, the second Garchomp being pulled as well, immediately brought on line, and now the Allies are going to move a fight, or they think of moving a fighting type energy onto the Shaman. They double check just to make sure they can retreat it for free with that Sky support ability, and the Garchomp is online. And it does do 100 damage, which is enough to take the Makago off the board with this Dragon Claw. And this is fantastic for this Champion's Path deck. The power it can bring if it is able to get set up, if it's able to get the energy that is needed, and that is what is happening. And they've got that Cynthia in the hand as well that can add an additional 50 damage to this Dragon Claw, but the Cinnabar Blazes are not aware of that. So even if they get that Center Scorch online, it only has 130 health. As they move the Sizzlipede into the active spot, they've got a second Sizzlipede that they've just pulled as well. And they do get the Center Scorch online in the active spot, but as we said, they don't know that that Cynthia is in hand. They are going to get an energy onto the Heat Rotom. They end their turn. It comes back over to the allies. They get their second Pokeball, and they are going to play that as well. So they get another basic Pokemon. This time it's the Eevee, because they have the Glaceons in this deck. That's the reason behind the Water type energy. And they do get a Water energy onto the Shaman that's taken damage. They're not worried about the Irida just yet, though. They're going with the Cynthia. They want to get this Center Scorch off the board as soon as possible. They want the Blazers to feel the pressure, and the allies have taken 2 points, one more point, and we are going to a game 3. And now that Heat Rotom in the active spot, the Blazers do pull the potion. I think they know that this is definitely going to a game 3, because Rotom cannot outlast a hit from the Garchomp. They only get 30 damage here onto the Garchomp with this Heat Breath as well. The allies don't need to worry about the Irida. They need to worry about game 3 as they pull their second Irida as well. This Dragon Claw gets the third point for the Champion's Path deck, and that is how quickly and effective these decks can be. But again, they need the energy that they can generate. But as we have our final table reset, we are going to our game 3 decider. And once again, flipping heads, it is the Cinnabar Blazes going first, this time with their Fire Spit Island deck up against the Gold Rush deck of the allies. They've got the 2 Vulpix in hand, one on the active spot, one on the bench. The allies, we can see the Burmy as well as the Nosepass. They've got the Probopass and the Mothim as well as the Goldengo. And it is the Nosepass in the active spot with the Burmy on the bench. Now the Burmy's weak to the fire types. The Mothim though, however, is not. It is weak to the lightning types. And as we said, it is the Blazers going first. The Mothim also has a 0 energy retreat cost, but the Heatran's been pulled for the Blazers. Moved it onto the bench straight away, sending it over to the allies, and they pulled the Gimmighoul, so they've got all the Pokemon they need for the evolutions. And this deck does produce fighting and metal type of energy as they get that fighting energy onto the Nosepass immediately with that tackle, 10 damage onto the Vulpix, bringing it down to 40 health. As the Blazers pull their Professor's Research, they've got the Pokemon Center Lady, the Giant Cape, and the Pokemon Communication in hand. And with the Professor's Research, they get the Magmortar, but they get the Ninetales, capable of 90 damage, but it does have to discard energy every time it uses it, and it does require 2 energy, so that Vulpix can't go on the offensive yet if it were to evolve. However, with this Tail Whip, it can prevent it from taking damage in the next turn as they get the Giant Cape onto it, and they're just going straight for the evolution. They want that Ninetales ready to go. The Blazers end their turn, sending it over to the allies. Now the allies are aware that Ninetales is there. They are going to bring the Probopass online. It is weak to the fire type, so it will take an additional 20 damage, but it can outlast a hit here from the Ninetales. The Goldengo is also online, and so is the Mothim. Again, it has that 0 retreat cost. The Goldengo gets its one and only required metal energy, but it still requires 2 more energy if it wants to use that Scintillating Surf. For each energy attached to it that is a metal energy, it does get a coin flip, but for every heads, it does 50 damage. But here it is, the Ninetales gets its second energy. Before the Blazers worry about that though, they're going to play the second Pokemon Communication that they just pulled, sending the Magmortar back into the deck, and out, being pulled back out, it is going to be a Magma. It is the Stoke Magma. They keep it in hand, and they just go with this Flamethrower. It will have to discard energy, but 110 damage onto the Probopass. The allies pull their second Gimmighoul, and they are on the back foot. This is fantastic for the Blazers. There is a lot of energy required to set up this Gold Rush deck of the Holon Allies. And they're thinking about where they want to move this fighting type energy. They're not producing the metal energies that they need to maximize Goldengo's offensive potential. And they decide to just go with an energy onto the Mothim. The Blazers pulling their other Magmortar now. They get the Magma onto the bench. They get another energy onto the Ninetales. They're not waiting. They're going straight on the offensive with the Flamethrower. They take the Probopass off the board into the discard pile, taking the first point here in game 3. They want to keep the allies on the back foot. They don't want to give them time to think. As the Motham is moved into the active spot, it only has 90 health. It cannot outlast a hit from this Ninetales. The Wormadam being pulled as well for the allies, but it is the Motham here, and it is going to be able to go for that Gust, but you can tell that they're reluctant. They move the Gimmighoul into the bench, and there it is, the Gust. But this Motham is an easy target for the Ninetales. That Wormadam could actually outlast a hit from the Ninetales, the second Magma being pulled for the Blazes. And it is another flamethrower, and it will be a second point, but before they use that, they're using the Pokemon Center Lady. They want to make sure that the Ninetales can outlast a hit from the Goldango, but the Goldango can't even go on the offensive on the next turn. It's only got 1 energy on it, and now the Motham is in the discard pile. The second point for the Cinnabar Blazes, 1 more point, and they will guarantee that they will have a second chance going into Victory Road, as the best they can do is second. It is the Olivine Raiders who have locked up that first spot. There was an error in our tail of the tape that said that the Blazers were first coming into this match, but they are actually sitting in 3rd place. But that will not be the case for much longer if they keep this up. They do pull the Pokeball, they're going to get another basic Pokemon, and the only remaining one is the second Heatran being pulled, and they've got that Pokemon Communication. They could try and get the second Ninetales out of their deck, but they're just keeping on the offensive with these Flamethrowers. They are acting very quick, blazing through this Gold Rush. The allies pull the Probopass, but there is not much they can do. The most they can do here is flip 1 heads. They only get 1 opportunity, and it's a Tails. They get nothing onto this Ninetales, and this will free up this Fire Spit Island to absolutely run through this Goldango and melt it away. It will become liquid metal, oozing out for the Holon Allies, who have gone the entire season winless. I cannot believe it. They have lost 9 straight games, but it is the Blazers moving up into 2nd place, and when we see them in Victory Road, they will be going up against the Turffield Ebonies, but we won't see the Holon Allies until next season. But with all that said, Nidorinos, thank you so much for watching. Let us know in the comments below what you thought the best card was, and if you enjoyed what you saw, please leave a like, share, subscribe, but more importantly, always remember, send thanks, and I'll see you when you see me.